Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to Karur Vysya Bank Q3 FY21 earnings conference call hosted by Spark Capital Advisors India Private Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal for an operator by pressing star then zero on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Abhinesh Vijayaraj from Spark Capital Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Aisha. Good morning to everyone on the call. On behalf of Spark Capital, I welcome you to the 3Q FY21 earnings call of Karur Vysya Bank. We have with us today the management team of KVB, represented by the MD and CEO, Mr. Ramesh Babu, President and COO, Mr. Nagarajan, CFO, Mr. Ramesh Murthy, Company Secretary and Compliance Officer, Mr. Srinivasa Rao. I now request Mr. Ramesh Babu to take us through the highlights of the quarter gone by, after which we will open the floor for questions. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Abhinesh. So, at the outset, I welcome everyone to this call from the KVB team, and thanks a lot first of all, for joining the call. So, it's a good quarter, despite challenging times, as we have done well in business growth, cost of deposits, and few other parameters. Business is growing sequentially, and total business has crossed 1,14,000 crores as on December 20, with a YTD growth of 6%. So, growth in areas that we focus on have been strong and is showing encouraging signs of revival. Our franchise is coming to the work every day, despite the pandemic, and they're really helping us to grow our low-cost deposits as much as our retail as well as gold loan business. Retail has also picked up, and we have entered quarter 3 quite well. We are able to manage and navigate the storm better than the worst belief we had. In our command area, business is picking up, and that is encouraging. So that way, it looks quite bright. The future prospects as well as the business prospects are concerned. The total deposits grow by 5% YTD, driven by improved CASA of 35%, as against 31% as at the end of December 19, up by 400 basis points. So first time, bank has crossed 35% mark. As the economy is coming back on track, we need to see there would be withdrawals and growth in TD, which will start now also, but to some extent, impact the ratio in the days to come. Idle cash, which was lying in our accounts, may also start moving out once normalcy in the economy restores. However, our endeavor is to protect these balances and to grow further from here. Cost of deposits has further improved and improved by 96 basis points YOY and is currently at 4.8% as against last year 5.76. So we may not be able to maintain the low rates forever, because if the liquidity gets drained, naturally the cost goes up. So TD growth is muted, time deposit growth is muted, as the bank is having surplus liquidity, and a conscious decision over time deposit growth was taken not to give a great thrust. So even if you grow well under time deposits during the year pass through, you need to invest in low yielding treasury assets, because the credit growth is not to the extent what we visualized. Now we have started giving focus on TD as asset growth started picking up. Coming to the credit growth on a YTD basis, so it was higher at 7%, and if we exclude IBPC, which was in the books last year, it comes to 9%. So we do not have any IBPC outstandings now. Advances have grown sequentially too. So all of you would have observed last year, March 20, we had a degrowth for the whole year as far as advances are concerned. So I'm happy to share that. So we are slowly reversing the trend, and every vertical started delivering. So growth has been achieved through improved offtake in retail portfolio with a YTD growth of 9%, and if you exclude the IBPC of last year, and jewel loan portfolio also continue to witness, and the YTD growth currently is at 31%. Our business verticals have also started growing in numbers progressively. Neo, so which we started 1.5 years back, as a non-branch channel created continues its robust performance, and the portfolio has crossed the landmark 1,000 crores AUM. Corporate book has degrown YOY and has come down to 24% as against 26% as at the end of March 20, despite GECL disbursements of 541 crores. As all of you know, it's a conscious decision to go slow on the corporate book and to focus on rest of the segments. The commercial book also further granularized. Average ticket size is currently at 33 lakhs, and 86% of the loans you would have noticed from our investors deck are less than 5 crore. CD ratio has improved to 84%, which was 82% at the end of March. Business per employee has also improved. So CRAR has further improved to from 15.87 December 19 to 18.52 now. NIM stands at 3.29 and is almost flat despite consciously exiting few weaker accounts which are high yielding, and also we had to offer competitive pricing to our customers. Our endeavor is to maintain that stable NIMs. However, further growth in TD portfolio and composition of the credit growth may have some bearing on the NIM. Volume growth in the business, what we are planning, should make up this reduction in the NIM. I will come to separately for the 11th bipartite. As 11th bipartite settlement expense is a one-time expense, if we do not reckon the BPS, cost to income, profit per employee, and business per employee, all of them have improved during the quarter. So now I'll come to few other points. First thing on the pro forma slippages. Pro forma slippages, in terms of the Honorable Supreme Court orders, bank has not classified any borrower account as NPA after 31st August 2020. Pro forma slippages for the period ending December was at 885 crores. Bank has not recognized unrealized interest, which amounts to around 53 crores. About 93% of the slippages are from the moratorium book. Estimated pro forma slippages for the current year will be in the range of 2.25%. Our SMA 30 plus balances as of 31st December 20, after netting the pro forma slippages, is at 2.42% of the advances. Coming to restructuring, in terms of RBI guidelines, one-time restructuring was permitted up to December 31st, 2020 for eligible borrower accounts other than MSME, and for MSME accounts, existing restructuring guidelines will continue till the end of March 2021. During the last quarter review, we have guided our restructuring advances would be in the range of 2.25% of our advances. During the quarter, under non-MSME, we have received 1,524 eligible applications amounting to 668 crores and restructured 373 crores, and 93 applications amounting to 295 crores are under process. Under MSME, we have restructured about 98 crores during the quarter ending December, and overall we have restructured 471 crore during the quarter. Our restructure book as on 31st December was at 680 crores, which is 1.3% of our loan book. Our estimated numbers, we feel, will be within the range of 2.25 of our total advances at the end of the year. Coming to the establishment expenses. Bank is a member of IBA and consented for the employee wage settlement negotiations in July 2017. Bank has been paying 10% of the pay bill component as ad hoc to employees from November 2017 onwards. We have reviewed and made an additional provision of 24 crores during June 2020 quarter. The wage settlement was signed in the month of November 20. The cost impact on our bank works out to 14.8% of our wage bill as of 31st October 2017. Total arrears payable to employees for the period from October 17 to December 20 on the payable component works out to 239.28 crores, and bank has so far paid or provided for 134.26 crores. The balance amount of 105 crores was debited to establishment account and kept as a provision during the December quarter. There are certain connected expenses on account of pension, gratuity, encashment of leave, retirement, etc., retirement benefits. So we have provided an additional provision of 70 crores based on certain estimates. Overall, we have created additional provision of 175 crores for this. The incremental impact on our establishment expenses on account of wage settlement is 56.16 crores per year on our normalized establishment cost. Now coming to the provisions. During the quarter, bank has made a provision of 61 crore towards restructure advances and 80 crores towards COVID-19 related package. So this includes the pro forma slippages also. So bank has up to September 20 has provided 220 crores towards COVID related stress accounts, which is inclusive of 47 crores during quarter 4 of previous year. During quarter 3, including the additional amount of 80 crores as stated above, our overall provisions for COVID related stress is 300 crores. After factoring the pro forma slippages requirement of about 135 crore, there is a buffer provision of about 165 crore available for contingencies. Now, if you look at the collection efficiency, we have a slide also in the investors deck. Our collection efficiency during the current quarter, is provided in the investors presentation. The numbers indicate payments made when demand is raised for the first time. There are many cases where installments were paid on subsequent dates. As of 31st January, our collection efficiency for the dues for the month of October, November and December was above 94% levels. Considering this, our collection efficiency is at satisfactory levels. We continue to focus on our collection capabilities to sustain these levels. So this is from my side. So though it's an extraordinarily difficult year for all of us, so we feel we have managed to do reasonably well. Over to Abhinesh and moderator for the questions.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 now. The first question is from the line of Renish Pova from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir, and congrats on a great set of numbers during this really difficult time. So sir, just one clarification on the restructuring part. So you have said that our total rejected book as on December stands at 680 crore. So what is the pipeline we have? You said I missed that number.
You have mentioned, na? So we have given those numbers also. What all is in the pipeline also we have mentioned here. If you look at it, 93 applications amounting to 295 crores are under process. So which under the corporate what we have got it. But however, MSME, the window is open up to 31st March. So correct. That we are going ahead. But MSME as it is, if earlier also if you look at it, the numbers are not that great. If you look at it, 98 crores up to December we have done that. So that way we feel that 2.25 what we thought, it would be well within that.
Okay, got it. So basically for MSME we don't have any pipeline as we speak today.
No, but that's ongoing. They have time up to 31st March, so we cannot convey anything now at this stage.
Got it. Okay, sir. Sir, secondly, on this provisioning part, okay, so you mentioned we have a COVID, related buffer of 3 billion, and maybe arriving at a pro forma NPA, we have used something, and 165 crore is left as a contingency. Is that the right reconciliation, sir?
165 crores is left for the absolutely you're right.
Okay. And the 58 crore which we have provided towards restructured is also available, if something, let's say, slip from the restructured pool going ahead.
Yeah. Because this 300 what we are talking is, this 58 is in addition to the restructuring what we have provided.
Got it. So basically it's 358 crore, right? Including restructuring pool.
You are right.
Total provisioning buffer we have.
58, absolutely you are right.
No, provision numbers are correct.
Yeah, 300 crores is the provision and 58 crores separately we have provided for the restructuring, which is not a part of the 300.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, just wanted to reconfirm that. Yeah.
Now, Renish, just listen to me that since the restructuring is invoked, the plan envisages that the account will continue in the same status and we'll have to maintain the provision as long as the account is performing.
Got it, sir. Yeah. So, sir, just last question from my side, a bit on the strategic front. So, sir, when we look at our cost of fund at sub 5%, I think this would be by far, one of the lowest in the industry. So, sir, what is stopping us to accelerate the, expanding the retail portfolio, including SME? I mean, at our cost of fund, we can compete with any other bank. So, is that any process or maybe the infrastructure which is stopping you from expanding this portfolio? We are just waiting for economic to turn more positive and then we sort of start looking at expanding this portfolio.
Yeah, your question has a part of the answer. So one thing is coming to I'll split this into two parts. Retail, if you see, the housing as well as the personal loan and vehicle loan. So we are relatively selective in identifying and taking it because we ourselves are not clear the economy pans out. Even today, if you look at it, many of the suppose self-employed, these sort of people and all, so still they have not yet come back to the normalcy and people may not be getting their full salary also. So rather than taking a plunge at this stage, it's better we wait for this quarter and see and then go ahead. Otherwise, we have activated all our teams and all, so everyone will be on the job. So product is ready. This risk, everything is ready and all, we will take it forward, that is not a problem. Coming to SME also, so lot of activity we have generated during last quarter and many of our people, they are meeting the new customers, borrowers, all these people and all. So that way if you can see, so earlier when continuously you were seeing a degrowth in the commercial segment and now this is the quarter you found out YTD also you found out a growth there and all. So that way we are better off. Both under the SME as well as retail is concerned. So to go forward, so it should not be an issue at all, just a wait and watch. Otherwise also if you look at it overall, the 9% growth in the credit YTD, it is a decent number compared to the market what others have grown. Yeah, 1 second from CFO, yeah.
All I wanted to add, Renish, is that we do not have any infrastructure bottlenecks or any constraint on infrastructure. We are fully geared up to take the volumes.
Renish, one more point also. Despite corporate book coming down by 1% year on year and overall we grew by 9% in the advances YTD.
Got it, sir. Yeah. Actually, I have a few more questions, but maybe we can take it one-on-one. That's it from my side, sir. Yeah.
Please. Thanks, Renish. Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Akash Dattani from HDFC Securities Limited. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning and thank you for taking my question. So my first question is I wanted to get your thoughts on the sufficiency of our stock of provisions in terms of the balance 165 odd crores.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear about that. If it's a 165 crore provision, what is that you wanted?
So I wanted to get your views on on how sufficient you think our stock of provisions is.
Sufficiency, no. Two things we have to keep in mind. So one thing, if you look at this quarter, as a one-time expenses, what we have provided, we have told you. So that 175 crore. Now, if you look at the 2.25%, what we have estimated the slippages also, so which comes to around 1,180 crores for the whole year. So 880 crores already pro forma when we have already indicated there. So at the most another 300 crores it may go up. But simultaneously we are focusing on the recoveries also. That way, the reversal of the provisions, what all will be there from the recoveries also will be there. That is one point. So if 169 also, if you look at it, we will be able to provide from our own sources what all are available, which we are generating from the March quarter also. So that as well as this, even if you look at it 169, even if we do not touch the March quarter also, ideally it should be sufficient enough with the 2.25% slippages cross what we have estimated. So without even factoring the recoveries and reversals of the provisions.
Okay, that's it from my end. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The next question is from the line of Anand Bhavnani from White Oak Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. So my first question was regarding growth. Now, how do you see the outlook for next couple of years, and if you can give us a sense of what kind of loan book growth are you targeting, and which specific areas do you see leading this loan book growth for us?
Yeah, Anand, in fact, it's a good question. The question is because we had to pass through this March quarter, how it pans out and how the economy actually comes back to the normalcy. So if you see, with these difficult times also, so we could grow up to an extent of more or less 9% during this year, excluding IBPC. And as I said, so we didn't touch an IBPC because we are totally relying on the organic growth rather than an inorganic growth. So if that way, if things goes on, I feel that 12% we should aim for that, because so when the economy is growing at a particular level, if we try to grow double that of, triple that of the economy levels and all, we will be bound to have accidents. So that too, the bank where last 2 years when there's a degrowth in the advances, so reversing the past trend and taking it forward, and that too with an accelerated speed if we take it, so we'll be creating problems for the future. So that way I would like to have a calibrated approach, and progressively we need to grow with safety keeping in mind. So if everything goes on well, we can think of around a 12% growth. So this year, suppose we are at 52,000 crores odd, as I said, 53 odd also if we reach by the end of the March. So 12% of that, around 6,000 crores it comes. More or less we will be reaching around 60,000 crores of advances by the end of 22. That's what I feel.
Sure, sir. And sir, with regards to the competitive intensity, how are you seeing, competitive intensity changes, like in any particular product category you are seeing higher competitive intensity, or any particular product category you are seeing more opportunity for growth?
Competitive intensity depends on two factors. One is the built-in competitive intensity, what all we have, and second thing, something is driven by the surplus liquidity in the system. Suppose currently surplus liquidity is there, sometimes, I should not say, when I look at the offers what others give, even for a fresh account, these things, the risk-reward ratio more or less is not kept in mind. So the rock bottom pricing, what all the offer and all, even if there is a risky asset and all, so we are not interested in touching those sort of risky assets, and at a throwaway price we don't want to price. So in the process, even if some good things are there where we cannot price it at such a low level which is not worth it, we are not doing. So competitive intensity, the second thing if you see, not only the pricing is the only factor. If pricing is the only factor, there has to be only few players in the market and all, no player would be there in the market at all. So beyond competitive pricing, there are few other factors like connect, support them at the material time, all these things matter. So we are internally stressing on those things, which is the basic DNA of Karur Vysya Bank, to focus on that, to have the connect and TAT, all these things and all. So that way, so we are able to go back to the customers and all, we are able to grow. With this, we are reasonably confident with the initial feedback what we have got from the customers, that the numbers what we have told, so 12%, something like that, we will be able to grow well despite the competition what all is prevalent.
Sure.
So I tell you 12%, you don't hold me tomorrow. So this is what my estimate and all. I didn't talk to my management team also yet, because you asked me, I indicated. So back to front, I need to work on these numbers and all. To the extent possible, this is in my mind.
Sure. And lastly, sir, with regards to the COVID stress, you said you want to, see how economy comes back in the March quarter. But in terms of our provisioning, do you see any significant provisioning that we might have to undertake in March quarter, or are we done with all the provisioning?
Yeah, I'll split this again into two parts. All along, bank had the pain under the corporate segment. So when we look at our corporate segment as against a portfolio of around 14,000 crores also, so nothing much, around 100-200 crores only under the stress we are able to see it also. So which in the normal course any bank will have to pass through that particular stress when you are in the commercial business. So the main component which was a lumpy and chunky hits we were getting earlier, if that is not coming, and rest has to be from the SME as well as from the personal banking. So if we split this again into this one, our SME 30 plus, if you look at it, so after netting off pro forma slippages also, it is 2.42% of the advances. But if you look at the retail segment, majority of these restructuring requests as well as the stress is coming from home loan as well as LAP. So our personal segment, personal loans are concerned, we are very conservative with lot many gating conditions and all. If these two, currently people are unable to service this because their cash flows have been impacted. Because few of them are not getting, they are getting delayed or not getting and all. But underlying asset is still with you. So, but you will not be able to enforce because of the Supreme Court directions and all. So, compared to the earlier stress what we had under corporate, which majority portion was unsecured, here the stress what all, even if you undergo also, it is relatively secured with a decent LTV. Even if after tomorrow you go to the market and all and enforce that, you will be able to get back the money. It's a question of only time. The same is the case as far as our SME portfolio and commercial is also concerned. We have a slide in the investor deck you can see on the collateral coverage. So majority of our loans even under SME are also covered through collateral. So that way, compared to the corporate, as I was mentioning, major portion was as a consortium, clean, all these things. So this stress, even if it pans out, is relatively a better stress where the chances of recovery are better compared to the earlier stress. But whatever it is, we foresee that because we are totally focused on this follow-up, monitoring and every level, our people, we are alerting them on how they need to connect, how they need to own up each of the account. So we are reasonably okay, feel that so there may not be big unforeseen hits under this segment.
Sure, I'll come back in the queue for additional questions.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pranav Tendulkar from Rare Enterprises. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks a lot. Sir, there is a little bit confusion. So in your result press release, you have mentioned there is a 175 crore one-time adjustment to wage. And then in the presentation, you have obviously said the figures that you mentioned. That is 135 crore for the wage bipartite agreement. And then there is a increase from 45 crore to around 71 crore in the retirement benefits. So can you just again explain where is that press release mentioned 175 crore and why the values mismatch?
Pranav, see, I'm Natarajan here. See, total the expenditure on account of this bipartite, it has two components. One is on the payable component and another is on the other benefit, connected benefits. If you see the overall, we have provided 175 crores towards the bipartite settlement. If you see the payable component, we have in our investor presentation, we have shown 135 crores and the balance amount we have provided by way of the provisions. These are all one-time expenditure. We have taken into account all the possible the accounts, the expenditure required for this, we have provided for that.
Okay, and that one-time provision is sitting where? In the P&L and balance sheet?
Yeah, it is.
Pranav, in the P&L, 135 is expensed as salary, staff expenditure. 40 crores is accounted under provision others and it is held as a liability because it is subject to actuarial valuations and other things. So that reports will be actually finalized at the end of the year.
Pranav, actually as of 31st December we have not paid, we have only provided. Only this quarter and the subsequent quarters it will crystallize and then we will pay. So that is why
the 135 crores is debited and put it in the payable account.
Okay.
And the remaining amount is we don't know when it will crystallize. So that's why we kept it in the reserves, provisions.
Okay, sir. So just a little bit clarity. So in the next year, your wage bill is going to be around what number?
See, if 31st March, our way bill was something around 857 crores.
Right.
And if you see 30th September, if you annualize it, it is 868 crores. So we also, our MDs are also mentioned, and the settlement, the bipartisan settlement impact is 56.16 crores per year. So if you roughly translate into percentage terms, it will be 6 to 7% only because of this wage bill.
Over and above the current is.
Yeah.
Got it. So 6-7% above 868.
Correct. That's what.
Okay, sir. That's great. So second thing is that also there is a little bit mismatch where in your press release you said that there is a 342 crores aggregate provisions for COVID. And then there is one value mentioned which is a 300 crore if you go to the COVID provision slide. And then 165 crore you said is the available out of that in the contingency. But you have only actually utilized something like 14 crore and 57 crore as a two items from the existing 220 crore in the previous quarter. So, and then you have provided obviously something extra. So can you just tally it?
Yeah. Pranav, let's go through the numbers one by one. The 342 crores is the disclosure which is required to be made based on terms of our accounting. Correct?
Correct.
So that breakup is very simple. 220 crores was already provided up to September.
Correct.
80 crores is what we have provided towards pro forma slippages.
Correct.
And another 40 and odd crores towards this restructuring which came out of this moratorium book because of COVID stress. So that is the number of 342 which our auditors have mentioned as a disclosure in the financials.
Correct.
Am I clear?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
So now, this is not 57 crore restructured provision, but it is 40 crore.
See, that restructure, like our MD sir was saying, there will be both components, one flowing out of COVID and one out of regular MSME package.
Got it, sir. Okay. So and where is the 300 crore coming from and 165 crore?
No, that now if you theoretically see 220 plus 80, because restructuring, the reply which I gave to earlier question, right. Once the restructuring is done, based on current RBI guidelines, the restructuring provision has to be carried forward separately. These are the RBI guidelines. Now it is based on the performing status of the account, it has to be treated separately. Okay. So the COVID provision per se, including pro forma slippages, is 300 crore.
Right.
Now, if you consider 880 crores worth of slippages, pro forma slippages, 135 will be the outer limit for provisioning requirement on those accounts at roughly say 15% and odd. So if you reduce the 135 from 300 crore, the balance left, which we are treating it as a buffer, is around 165 crore.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Got it.
And to the earlier question, I think from someone from HDFC, so this 165 is actually created and held on record. We still have room to create something which we will do in the normal course during the current quarter.
Correct. So that 65 crore additional provision that you made for COVID in this quarter is a part of that 300 and 165.
Yes.
Right, sir. So third thing is if you go to the provisions slide, then there is a one provision item which is NPI, others including NPI, that saw a big jump to 63 crore. What is this?
I was surprised why nobody asked this question. There are two items there. One is the LVB write-off which we had to do, but don't quote me again. But everybody is aware, sir. It has come in paper.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody knows, no? It is RBI published news that there has to be a write-off.
Okay.
So that is one, and the other one is our
LVB. LVB is Lakshmi Vilas Bank.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I abbreviated it.
Okay. Fine.
And the second one is what our president was reporting. towards this pension benefits and other retirement benefits, which will happen now in this quarter. The front loading of So those are the two items.
So actually, that is not impacting PPOP, but it is impacting PAT.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, that's great. So that means 40 crore that we were saying is actually in PAT.
Correct, exactly. That write-off thing don't mean overplay it.
No, sir. So that is second thing. Third thing is that your other expenses actually are in control till now. So selling and administrative expenses, that is 210 crores. And I believe last year, same quarter, it was around 227 crores. So this is it a cost rationalization or is it that some, I mean, how should we treat it going forward?
No, I will not say, because though the efforts are there for the cost rationalization, but COVID also was there. On account of that also, first, second quarters and all. So a lot of cost has come down. But whatever it is, on every line item, for the purpose of this one and all, advance or income as well as expenses. So we are having a track now and all. So that I cannot straight away say everything has been rationalized and all. But in the days to come, so we are going to have an eye on each of the item. So whether we are going to get a value for the money we have spent or not.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
So next year provisions. So obviously there will be some aging provisions on the around 2,000 crore pro forma NNPA that we have. Then we need to do some provisions for the incremental 300 crore slippages that you said that if you just subtract 880 crore from the 2.5% guidance, then there will be 300 crores. That will be the new provisions.
Correct.
And then we have 160 crores buffer for that, and some part of it will come from the recovery.
Correct.
So can you just guide on the recovery part of it? Because I believe that whatever disclosures you provided in the past, there is a decent amount of security on the even COVID and COVID slippages and previous slippages. So can you just elaborate how would be the loss given default on new slippages and existing slippages going forward?
See, Pranav, with regard to recovery, if you notice during the Q3 also, in spite of the difficult conditions, we have recovered 161 crores.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, according, even though we have given indicated the NPA guidance, and we are very much sure that definitely will be well within that. But if you take into recoveries, the net slippages will be substantially low. What we are talking about only the gross slippages, and the net slippages will be definitely. You have seen during the past 3 or 4 quarters, our net slippage is always negative. Only maybe in the March also we are planning for that only.
Correct. So upgrades and recovery of around 150 to 200 crores per quarter could come from next quarter.
That is what our, historically if you see, during the past 3 quarters, we are able to achieve this. But being the last quarter, we have activated the recovery team and we are initiating a lot of other measures. Definitely it will pay result. In addition to that, because of the COVID, there were certain regulatory issues were there. So particularly on the SARFAESI and all, we are not able to take the possession of the properties. That all, everything is lined up now. So once it is cleared, there will be a good recovery from this segment also. And also the large borrower accounts also we are trying to chase. That also will help us to reduce it.
IBC stands still.
Yeah.
Right. So last question from my side, sir. Other income and fee income. So there are many components. Like I believe you have a tie-up with one of the best health insurance companies in India, and also there are some efforts being done on life insurance and other fee income part. So can you just elaborate where are we in this progress and what is the quarterly run rate that we have right now, and what is the goal to reach, say, in 12 months?
In fact, I agreed, but I'll tell you the quarterly run rate I will not be able to share with you because directly that a third-party product cross-sell number is not readily available with me. Okay. But one thing I can share with you, and so we have been emphasizing on every partner as well as our own branches for improving this one and all. The question what happened is few of the players where the IT integration is required. So we have actively worked with them so that the policy will get generated straight away in the branch, and immediately after the transactions they can print and they can give it. Most probably by the end of the month or something like that, either the issues from the partner or from our side and all, we are taking it forward. Once that is through, that will be better. And second thing is coming to the promoting these products, insurance and these things also, to some extent, it is subdued during this COVID period. As all of you know, when people are struggling for their income and for maintenance of the families and all, so if our people, they were approaching them for the third party and all, there is some sort of reluctance on their part because they want to save something for a rainy day. So that has to some extent dampened our cross-selling efforts. So which maybe this quarter, once normalcy restores, we will be able to get back the traction. And third thing is, we were not having a strong CRM. So that we are in touch with the service providers and all. Most probably by the end of this month or next month, we will be able to conclude that once the CRM comes, we will have a better tracking mechanism, particularly for the leads, generation, follow-up, third-party, cross-selling, all these things. So that will further improve our position. This is a work in progress going on well and all. So when the economy is not doing that well and all, where we are unable to push, we thought let us put this infrastructure in place and all so that we can take off once things are back in action.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for
Thanks, Pranav. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sri Shankar from InCred Capital. Please go ahead.
Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I got a couple of questions. First is, sir, what is our CET Tier 1 capital?
It is, I told actually here, 16 point.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you, it's 16 point odd, we'll just tell you. One sec, yeah. It is 16.46, something like that I see.
I said Tier 1.
Tier 1 only. Tier 1 only, because Tier 2 is 18% odd. Tier 2 you see, it is 18.52. Tier 1...
Our entire capital, Tier 1 capital is CET1. We don't have any AT1 borrowings.
Okay. And how much has been our lending under ECL and GCL scheme?
2,000 crores. So we have given a GECL, we have given a slide. So it is a 2,000 crore we have disbursed segment-wise also. We have a slide for that.
Which I missed it. Which slide is that?
I'll just tell you. It is slide number 23.
Okay. 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 23. Okay. GECL portfolio. Okay.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay. 2,000 crores. So, a significant amount of your restructured one is actually housing loans and 157 crores or something. And is these housing loans mostly from the salaried sector or the MSME sector or retail sector? What is the sector this housing loan contributes to?
Mr. Shankar, actually, you are aware that our retail loan, the vintage is very low. We just started a couple of years back. So our initial focus was to tap our existing customers instead of the new to bank. So if you see our existing customer pattern, most of our customers are self-service businessmen or self-service professionals. So in that way, our portfolio, retail portfolio, is predominantly this on the self-service business people and the business professionals. Of course, there are some salary sector also there. I can say some maybe 60% from the business and self-service professionals, and 40% will be in the salary class.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry, 60% from the business side and 40% from salary class.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
If I can just clarify, you wanted the Tier 1, Tier 2 capital.
Yeah.
Our total CRAR is 18.52% for this quarter.
Yeah.
Tier 1 is 16.46 and Tier 2 is 2.06.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So, in your slide 26, what does it, when you say that SMA 30 plus is 2.52 and then you have this portfolio performance balance in rupees, this is in terms of absolute numbers, 3,400, I don't understand. That's the reason why I'm asking. Slide 26.
Yeah, the slides 26, we are just giving a trend. So we are not talking about any absolute numbers here. But if you talk about the absolute number, the SMA 30 plus is 2.36%, which we have indicated on the side bars.
Yeah.
And in the graph, so what we assumed that in March 2017, if our SMA numbers are at 100, how the trend, how it moves. So that is just to give an indication, we have provided this graph. The first one is in terms of the value, and second one in terms of the percentage to our advances.
And okay. And this is portfolio performance when you say the same thing at SMA 30 plus at Niche?
Exactly. We take the SMA 30 plus numbers and then we compare with the 31, that is March 2017, and we analyze the trend. So if you see March 17, now the trend is increasing slowly, it is coming down because of a lot of measures bank has taken. And because only if you see the September, it has come down drastically. Now again it is moving.
So my question is, what is the difference between these two graphs?
No, the first graph is in terms of the value. Second graph is in terms of the percentage to advances. Our SMA to balances to advances.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Amit Premchandani from UTI Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. If we just remove the gold loan portfolio and the growth in gold loan, which is largely derived by the increase in the commodity price, the underlying growth in the loan book is still almost zero or negative. When do we see underlying growth coming back?
Now, if you look at the growth book, the degrowth YOY is there in the corporate segment. Okay. But if you look at the commercial also, so you are able to see some sort of growth. Earlier, as I was mentioning earlier also, up to March 2020, if you look at it, so all segments more or less we were having a degrowth only. So now if you look at it, so the growth started. If you do each other segment, it can be housing, vehicle, there under jewel loan, other things also we started growing. And jewel loan, anyhow you have told, SME also there is no degrowth. So that way, if you look at it, the degrowth stopped and they started growing that way. And third thing also I'll tell you, earlier we were having IBPC. So the growth what all we were having up to the end of March was with IBPC of 800 crore, and in the December of last year IBPC was much more. Whereas this year, the growth every rupee is only on account of our organic growth and all, we didn't go for any inorganic growth. So that way everyone is more or less aware that they need to deliver. Even I was telling you about the Neo, which was a new channel also, it has grown more or less by 40-45% during this year. But the problem is up to September ending, no one were coming forward, neither the borrowers nor actually the people also they were going forward. So the actual traction has come only in this quarter. We have a slide number 18. If you look at the slide number 18, retail segment growth we have shown, quarter one, so 172. So sanctioned as well as disbursed, we were giving 126. So that 172 sanction, everything in now retail we are doing majority through digital only. So that 172 of first quarter has now moved to 555. So this is excluding jewel loan, and sanctions also 445. So that way you can see quarter on quarter how the traction is going up. And another thing also earlier for one of the your analysts I was sharing, saying that whole hog we are not opening the floodgates and all, we are going because at the bottom what is the position we do not know actually. So that's why selectively we are growing, but we are growing. One good thing what all of you need to note is the degrowth has stopped and we are growing selectively and keeping the safety in mind. So that way we are better off compared to the earlier years. Now we are well prepared to take off from the next quarter onwards.
Sir, on the slippage front, if you can just break up the pro forma slippage for Q1, Q2 and Q3.
Q2 only 30 crores.
So the 882 crores, only 30 crores in quarter two.
It's because of August moratorium standstill.
Yeah. Because of the August moratorium, quarter two, we have 30 crores of slippage, and rest of them, so these we have identified and diagnosed, that is, we have recognized them, and third quarter. So that way, end of third quarter, what all is there, that 880 crores, 830 plus 850.
So 830?
850 plus 30.
Sir, 850 plus 30. 850 last quarter and 30 for the prior quarter.
And 0 for Q1?
Zero for because moratorium standstill was going on at that time.
And sir, your guidance of 225 basis point or 250 basis point of slippage is on an annualized basis, right?
True.
And sir, on the collection efficiency chart that you have shown, what exactly does it signify? 31 number slide, the term loan October 20 was 87.5, that has moved to 97.5 in terms of efficiency. What exactly does it signify that you have collected 10% more this month?
Mr. Amir, see, actually what we are trying to mention here, if you see the first time payment, whatever the first table, we have presented it when the first time payment, this is the efficiency. For example, then any mandate is there, if you present on the due date, only 87.5% were honored. So remaining 13% were rejects. But you know that the second time, third time, we will continue to make the payment only after talking to the customer. That is our normal collection measures, which normally it happens, not necessarily now, only earlier also it is like that. So the second table, what we are saying that out of this 87.5 is improved to 97.5. For example, October, the 12.5 were not paid, but whereas the same the customer subsequently paid, and it's only 2.5 is outstanding. So what we are trying to say is it is not that the customer is still not paid, but subsequently is paid. So that is what we are trying to present it here.
Thank you, sir. Understood. And sir, the restructuring in the commercial book has been much lower. Is it likely to sustain a commercial as well as MSME book, or can we expect a pickup in the next quarter?
See, Amit, again, if you see our pro forma slippages, again, substantial slippages comes from the commercial. So what we have conservatively, what we have taken the decision is, if the customer is not able to run the business and the cash flows are not visible, there is no point in continuing under account under restructuring. So that is why we are forced to take a call that let us not consider restructuring. We have allowed the account to slip, so let the customer will try to recover the money. So that is why our restructuring is low, whereas on the slippage side it is higher.
Thank you, sir. A final question from my side. If you look at a 10-year trend, the biggest drag on ROA after credit cost have been the overall cost to asset ratio for KVB, and it has continuously moved up. And this quarter we also saw fee income also being a negative drag in terms of growth. So how do you plan to deliver on levers to improve ROA except the credit cost?
Yeah, I'll just tell you one thing. So this year, comparing the income with that of last year may not be that correct. The reason is the major heads where the income during the quarter also, because first and second quarter there are issues. All of us, we know ATMs were you cannot charge, and the government has imposed some sort of restrictions and all. With all those things, and the number of transactions also have come down. So processing charges. Now, if you look at it, there is a dispensation for the balance sheet finalization also was given because of the COVID. So that way the processing fee which we were recovering earlier up to the third quarter, so it got slightly deferred and it has been postponed to rest of the quarter. So even if you are asking the borrowers also, the balance sheets are not ready, we need to give, even if something is ready, the estimates also they have to give. So in the entire process, the process of the renewals and other things got delayed. So that is one point. Second thing, if you look at it, processing charges is one. Second thing is the commission on the LC and BG. When the activity itself has subdued and not come back to the normalcy in full throttle, so the question of LC, BG opening have come down, which on the non-fund base earlier we were getting, and that has not come back as yet. in this quarter also. So third point, earlier I was responding to one of your colleagues about the third party products and all cross selling. Because selling at this stage when they were literally struggling from hand to mouth for maintaining and sustaining their families, at that time if you go and tell them, no, you take an insurance and all, so the response level from them is not that great as we were having earlier. So with these things, we need to keep the ground realities in mind. So though we have been tracking how we need to go ahead and all, but it is one of the point we are looking at it. Not only that, as I was telling earlier regarding the ROA, we are abreast of the situation and all, each of the lever. So we want to have owners also within the bank and all. So periodically we will be reviewing this lever, how it moves and what is the bearing it will have on the total ROA and how to control the cost as well as how to optimize the income. This would be an ongoing process we will do with more trust. More trust. Earlier what all was coming and going was going on. Now it is not so. It will be monitored by CFO personally looking at each of the points and all on an ongoing basis. And we are very sure because we are well aware saying that ROE is one of the key factors which we need to take care of that and all. We will work on that. Absolutely, I can say you on that.
Any guidance on ROA?
ROA, that's what I am saying now. Okay, credit cost, as we were discussing how economy pans out, reserves and all, we do not know. So if everything goes on well, so to some extent we will be able to improve much better in 21-22. But whatever it is, next to next year, we will have to cross 1% and all. So accordingly, every day we are planning only keeping ROA in mind.
Thank you, sir, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohan Mandora from Equirus Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Good morning and thanks for the opportunity. So on the slide of the portfolio performance, slide 26, this data is excluding the pro forma slippages. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
The 16 to 34 jump which has happened does not include the pro forma slippages.
26, this one.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. And so secondly, in terms of the recoveries that we are getting in the last 3-4 quarters, like is it more driven by the enforcement of securities or is it more because of the improvement in the businesses and so they are coming back and repaying? If you could share some color and incrementally also like how are we seeing the recovery coming? More from the improvement in business or from the enforcement of securities?
Mr. Rogan, see if you have noticed during the 9 months period, the security realization is not possible because SARFAESI procedures we are not able to proceed. Okay. So large advance also the IBC everything is at standstill. So whatever the recovery which we are displaying during this 3 quarters is only cash recovery and one-time settlements and understanding the customer, talking to them.
Sure.
We would request the participants to stay connected as the line for the management has gotten disconnected. Thank you for patiently waiting. We have the management reconnected, so you can go ahead, please.
Yeah, Mr. Rogan, I was talking to you about the recovery processes. So whatever you are seeing in the numbers, it is only a cash recovery on account of one-time settlements and customers are paying, and also wherever it's possible, customers are liquidating their assets and then making the payment.
Right. Sure, sir. And so on this collection efficiency slide, the term loan and working capital bifurcation, so is this for the entire portfolio excluding jewel loans or what is the...
It covers the entire portfolio other than the loans and bills portfolio and small thing, but by and large it covers our entire portfolio other than jewel loans.
Sure, sir. Okay. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jay Mundra from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for the opportunity and thanks for the additional disclosure. Sir, just on collection efficiency slide, and if I were to look at the SMA2 number that you have disclosed at 2.5%, now if I look at the collection efficiency which moves, the period and the December collection efficiency and the collection efficiency after 1 month, there is a 4-5% kind of a difference as people pay with a lag. So this SMA2 number that you have disclosed, 2.5%, is it December end, or this takes care of the lagged payment?
Look, whatever it is disclosed as of 31st December, Jay.
Right. Okay. So as people pay with, as you have shown that, some of the customers will pay with a lag.
Yeah.
So this SMA2 number should have also come down, right, as people pay with a lag.
Right. It's an ongoing process. Some forward movement will be there.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you. And second question is, sir, on commercial book. Now, if we have given around 1,400 crores under ECLGS, right, and if I were to multiply that by 5, assuming that, let us say 7,000 odd crore will be the portfolio outstanding, and if I remove that from the SME book of 16,000 crore, right, so around 9,000 crore is the number which have not taken ECLGS, and of them 475 crores have already slipped. So I am trying to understand that from 12 months perspective, this commercial book slippages should trend much lower, right? Because all the borderline cases are either have slipped or they would have availed ECLGS, and hence at least from 12-18 months perspective, the commercial book, which was the, let us say, a pain area, should show significantly lower slippages. Will that be a right conclusion or no?
We also feel so, Jay, because what you said is correct, which were there many other borderline cases, which were prior to March also, they were fledgling and all, they are struggling. So all of them, because that support structure has been suddenly withdrawn, so they had to break. So that way, weaker links, what all are there, they have been broken now and all. So that way, we feel that in the days to come, those who are able to survive and sustain, so the good ones will survive and all. This level of pain what we have undergone, so it will not be at the same level in the days to come. That's what we also feel.
Right. Okay. And the last question, sir, is if I were to total your pro forma slippages 880 crores, then your restructuring 680 crores, and additional pipeline of 295 crores, and SMA2 number of around 1,200 odd crores, right? Is there any overlap between all these three? Because if someone from an external perspective, if someone wants to capture the residual stress, which is pro forma plus restructuring and let us say SMA2, is that all three are additive, or is there something overlap? Thank you.
There is no...
680 is cumulative. So during the year, it is only 480.
Right. Yeah. So, but 880...
Other than that, nothing is overlapping. Everything is independent of that.
480 has come out of
No, it may be an SMA. It is standard.
It cannot be. SMA, not 30 plus.
Retail and, personal and...
So the pro forma 880, definitely it is not included in the SMA2 which you have published.
Correct.
Right. Okay. And the last data question, sir, if you have the net NPA breakup the way you have given for gross NPA, agri, commercial, retail, corporate.
Yeah, I'll answer that, Jay. Our net NPA figure, which is there in the slide, is 1,263 crores. That can be broken up into commercial is 466, retail is 68, agri is 22, and corporate is 707.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anand Bhavnani from White Oak Capital. Please go ahead.
So you gave us a sense of, about the recent quarters and some sense of outlook. In terms of your, 3 to 5 year outlook, which are the areas where you kind of see major scope of improvement and you'll have to kind of invest time and money?
Yeah, if you look at each of the vertical, so we have enough scope. If you look at the retail segment, so each of the product we can grow very well. Home loans as well as vehicle loans as well as under retail segment also gold loan also there's a provision where the yield is around 10 point odd. So that way when we are better off as far as technology is concerned, digital booking is concerned, so that is not a problem. Coming to the commercial segment is concerned, so as I was mentioning earlier, now we are reconnecting our branches, all of them, and we have strengthened also by creating a business banking unit also. Throughout the country there are 18 units are there, 16 units are there. So with these relationship manager structure what we have created, so we are better off in having these commercial. In the earlier call also I was mentioning, our focus would be rather than on the corporate and we will focus on the commercial front. Though the numbers may not grow in wholesale numbers how they grow, but the pricing power is relatively better here and all you will be able to get some more better yields here. So that way commercial is concerned, it is a bank is in that and we can revive that and we are confident of that. Now coming to the agri gold loan portfolio, we will continue to do that. I'm not saying that we will get out of that one and all. In a calibrated way we will be doing that one. Plus other factors also we are looking at in other activities where like poultry, the greenhouse, these things which are there in our command area. So we will try to do that and all. We are trying to grow in those areas. Separately we are working product wise. Now if we take out these three corporate, if you come, so corporate, so we took a policy earlier itself that not to take more than 125 crores, but we will try to take much lower than that, and the quality also will keep that in mind. The quality when is kept in mind, the book growth will be subdued, but even then it is not an issue. We want to grow in a sub 50 crore segment there, where again the pricing power is much better. So we have already created structures 2 years back itself for this corporate unit and all. We need to activate them. So now that the pain is more or less coming to an end, so we can go back to the market and all, identify good accounts and all. We can grow under corporate segment also. Now coming to the non-branch channel, NEO, what we have started some 2 years back, conscious efforts, conscious call was taken during last 6-8 months. So not to grow up to end of September, October and all. So when we from November onwards they started growing. So last year the total growth was around 500 crores, 450, 500 crores odd. And these 4-5 months, 3 months they are able to grow 4 months by another 400-500 crore. So we are strengthening that structure, and that unit also must start giving us some sort of numbers. Now the last one is the precious metal. Precious metal we have created a year back. So to take care of the gold financing business, that is this is gold financing, bullion business. So that also we are activating that one now that the normalcy is back. But the only thing is the overall in the country level, if you look at it, the amount of gold we are importing has come down drastically. Volumes may be down, but there also we'll granularize our portfolio and moderately we'll grow under this. And another area what we are thinking is on the co-lending. Co-lending, we are in touch with a few other NBFCs who are strong enough and who have their foothold and feet on street. So through that route also we want to grow well, so that at least where we do not have presence and where we do not have the capability for feet on street, so through their underwriting standards and our underwriting standards, if it matches, we want to go under that particular segment too. That way, if you look at it, each of the engines we wish to fire, and we want to grow in the coming years.
Yeah, Mr. Anand, in addition to our MD sir advised, see, during the past 3 years, we have invested a lot of energy and money in the scaling up a lot of infrastructure side, business side and all. Now everything has to be translated into business. That is what now we are focusing it. The new initiatives, whatever our MD has mentioned, everything will be translated into business in the next 2 or 3 years. So there will be a substantial business gain for whatever work we have done during the past 3 years.
Sure. What the problem, the change is a process, because as I was telling earlier, overnight you cannot reverse what was happening earlier. Suppose the degrowth, what all was there, we are able to successfully arrest the degrowth despite the COVID. So now we are at a stage with all the infrastructure in place, as President was mentioning. So we are well equipped to take off from this and all. We are reasonably confident that the team is totally energized now and all, they'll take it forward.
Sir, on this, I had a question follow-up. You spoke about each and individual area in terms of lending, but the conspicuously missing was your strategy on cross-sell. I mean, at this point in time, why isn't that a focus, given that it could be a low-hanging fruit cross-sell in terms of insurance or investment products?
No, I think you have misunderstood. Because earlier one of your colleagues have asked this question at length, I have responded there. I thought in the paucity of time I didn't repeat that particular point. Otherwise, cross-selling is one of our core areas. I talked about the CRM, what we are doing, all these things I have explained earlier.
No, so how do you, my question to that is, how do you kind of, see this cross-sell evolving over, let's say, next 3 years? How do you internally measure it in terms of number of products sold or revenue per customer from cross-sell? What metrics do you track, and how do you anticipate these metrics evolving in next 3 years?
Using our analytics, because a good analytics team is created, so 1.5 years back. So by using the analytics team, which are the products which we can promote actually, and keeping in view the profile of these customers, and that is being identified and all. As I told earlier, CRM, it is more or less on the stages of finalization, maybe end of March it's ready. So we'll be effectively use that and to promote and push these leads to the branches and all for follow-up also. So the use of analytics and sensitization amongst the people for improving the numbers and all, and the CRM together, so this should be one of the good levers for us to augment our income. Absolutely, we are on the job to get the maximum from this particular segment.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shiv Kumar from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Sir, my question is with regards to the credit underwriting processes in the bank. So for the commercial segment, is it currently centralized, the credit underwriting, and the branches have no role to play?
Shiv Kumar, actually, we have been talking about the digital transformation. It's basically for the business transformation. When we took the decision 3 years before to granularize our lending portfolio, what we thought is the turnaround time and the scalability is the main issue. So that's why we went for the digital transformation. Today, in commercial banking, we are bifurcated into small business group and the business banking group and the corporate business. So the small business group, particularly up to 2 crores, it is completely digitalized and centralized. And earlier, these are all completely the judgmental basis are happening at the branches. Today also it is happening at branches, but there are very clear underwriting metrics are built in our business rule engine, and everything should happen only through digitally. So in case of any customer needs to be accommodated because of the other reason, there is a clear they have to it has to be forwarded to the other higher authority for approval. In that way, we have completely moved away from the personal judgmental to the algorithm-based score built in the business rule engine.
Yeah, the escalation there, if somebody wants to escalate something which has not gone through digital channel, that is very clearly laid down, and tags have been defined for that also.
In addition to that, we have created a separate risk management department, and more than 50 lakhs rupees, it has to be eyeballed by the risk management officers sitting across the divisions. So they are not connected with the business, they are all connected to the risk head.
Okay. For the small business group, right, up to 2 crores.
That's right, up to 2 crores. Even for business banking also, we followed the same the validations, demography and other validations are happening only through digital. But finally, because it requires some sort of additional eyeballing, so that is why we made it as a manual at the end of the process. Again, it will become into digital. So in that way, our aspiration is we want to completely move away to the digital lending system in the bank. We are successful. We already completed 100% in the small business group and also the business banking group. Currently, we are doing that the corporate business also, but it will be mixed. It is a mix of digital as well as the manual process.
What is called phygital, that's the term used. So CIG will be a phygital process.
Got it. So, but where does the credit decision happen for even the SBG group?
No, see, whatever the sanctioning authority we have not disturbed. The only thing is the underwriting for earlier, it is purely judgmental. The manager feels that they can approve the loan because it's only personal judgmental and then always we can put some reasons. But in under digital system, we have built a scorecard. If the score is less than 30, he cannot approve. There is no way it can be sanctioned. And if it is 30 and 55, it has to be eyeballed by the risk management. If it is 50 and 55 and above, it's a green channel. In addition to the branch manager is supposed to meet the customer, do the PD, all processes are there, but there is an additional the digital processing system we have built in. So these are all completely complete digital environment, fully connected through API with almost 14 fintechs. So it is working very well in the bank now.
Okay, so this is a internal score which is generated by the system based on some algos, and the branch manager has no role to play in that.
Exactly, it's all completely back tested, and we have. I think you remember some time back we onboarded Boston Consultancy Group, and with their support, and we have built the scorecards for the different new to bank, existing customer, manufacturing, trade, like that. There are 24 scorecards are there. Accordingly, it is decided.
Got it, sir. Sir, and can you throw some light on this Neo channel? So that is also a digital channel wherein everything is taken care of by the system in terms of scoring and accreditation?
See, as far as the Neo is concerned, already our MD has mentioned that it's a non-branch distribution channel which we have created a 2 years back. So the idea is there are certain products which we are not able to do it at the branches. For example, a lab product. So lab product you require a complete PD with the customer, so that there are special requirements are there. So that all these products which are not able to do, particularly co-lending model, all these things we have centralized it. The team is sitting in Bombay and different people are there. They go by the DSA model. So there is no branch support there. Only for operations, the accounts are parked at the branches. So otherwise, sourcing, underwriting, there are credit managers are posted in all the locations. These credit managers, they go personally discussed, record. And of course, we are not connected with the digital platform. We are in the process of doing it. So currently the model goes of the PD basis. There is a underwriting model is there. Currently it is doing like that, but over a period of time, maybe in the next 6 months period, we want that also to put it under the digital platform.
Okay, and sourcing of the business, you rely on the DSAs and co-lending partners.
Exactly.
Got it, sir. Sir, and one question on the restructured book. Given that much of the restructuring is coming from the retail side of the business and that too on secured business, what is your own expectation of recovery of this book?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So earlier also I was mentioning that regarding the stress, the texture of the stress, what all was there, and currently if you look at it, so it's a question of only the time now. Earlier the stress was there and all majority used to be the unsecured. So now once the Supreme Court orders they are out, and you can start enforcing on the normal stress and restructured also. What we had done is, if you look at the numbers, they are very conservative numbers are there. Many of the cases where we didn't find any visibility of the cash flows or his ability to service and sustain, we straight away rejected those cases because we didn't want to postpone the problem, we wanted to bite the bullet. So these cases, naturally, we have to have a practical approach and look at their position and all. They were getting their salary or the self-employed or some sort of sustenance they were getting earlier, and few of them they were getting their payments in time. If they have not got the payments in time and normalcy is going to be restored, it is the right time we need to support them. So keeping all these points in mind, and we have restructured this account wherever we are reasonably felt this is a deserving case, all those cases we have done. So we assume that with the economy coming back to the normalcy, many of them will be able to get back their money. That is one thing. Second thing, as you know, in India, the house or home is close to the heart. Everyone tries to protect their home rather than surrendering it to a banker for an auction. So that way, the ability to recover a home loan is relatively better compared to an unsecured, a big corporate loan. So that point we need to keep it. So that's why I was told that the texture of these restructured loans is relatively better than those which we were there earlier.
Thank you. Due to time constraints, that was the last question. On behalf of Spark Capital Advisors, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for participating. Thank you very much. Thank you.